Welcome to the Rambling Man podcast, episode 8. I don't know where I was going with that, but episode 8, guys. Another solo episode going down. You know the drill with this by now. If you're listening on YouTube and you're new to the channel, drop a subscribe, drop a comment, tell me what kind of topics you want to hear about. Open to anything. You can email me or send me stuff. I don't care. Find me on social media. Send me stuff to talk about. Send me an article. Send me a video. It could be anything. I really don't care. I'll watch any videos, read any articles, talk about anything. Just commentary. I'm just here for entertainment. I'm just here to talk about something, to talk about nothing. Really, don't make no difference to me. So, episode 8. Number 8. I don't know. Ocho. We've gotten this far. Interesting. Have some topics today from somebody who gave me a couple. Another set of interesting and deeper topics. Like I said the last time I did a solo one, I thought there'd be some funnier ones. I don't know. Talking about, I don't even know what would be funny anymore. I don't know. Give me some funny stuff, guys. I'm down for anything, honestly. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about is dad life. This may not be relatable to some of you guys, but honestly, being a dad is crazy. I have, as of right now, a 1-year-old. My first child, Maya. Me and my wife had her. She was a high-risk pregnancy. My wife was on bed rest for a year, which after being a competitive CrossFitter for a long time was very tough. Being told you can't do anything. Then she was born preemie, almost 3 months. So she was in the NICU for a good while, basically till her due date. Or maybe a little bit before. But she was in there for like 2 months. I'm bad at remembering some stuff. I mean, I have good memory, but some things I just can't remember very well, especially that time was very chaotic. So that period was very, very interesting because not only am I a new father, but it's a very surreal feeling because it's almost like it's not real. It's like it's real, but it's not real because she's born, but then we don't have her. And then she was, on, assisted breathing and all that crazy stuff for a while and UV light, and she was really small. She was 3 pounds, 3 ounces. So that was a very bizarre feeling because, it's chaotic time. You're going to the hospital like 2 times a day, every day, to the NICU, and you're going to work and you're trying to maintain, some level of activity. Because for me, like working out is like kind of like a normal part of life just because it's a habit I've developed. Like it helps me. So like juggling all those things was crazy. Very wild time of life. For my wife, it was even crazier. Mad respect to her. I mean, we new parents and we're just doing the best we can. So it was a very weird time. So then we bring her home. And being a dad is just weird. The honest to God truth is like, people say all these cliche things. Like you always hear like a child will change your life and, this and that. And the truth is, it's right. And it's hard to understand till it happens. So me saying this to somebody who doesn't have a kid, you think, oh, blah, 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 whatever that means. I used to think the same thing. But, if I had a stone cold, frozen heart, I have no feelings, emotionless drone, beep, 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 Maya's born, something happened to me internally. Very hard to explain. It's so surreal and so beyond what you can really comprehend until you experience it. So all that cliche stuff is true. It's weird, very weird, because it changes everything for you. Your perception of life or reality, because now you're responsible for someone else. A very big responsibility that a lot of people can't bear, and it just changes reality for you in many different ways. So it's something that's just different. And it's those of you that are a parent understand. And, it's a very interesting experience going through, because it's like, especially as a new parent, you're like figuring it out as you go. There's no right or wrong way really to do things, even though people would beg to differ. But the one things that are important when you become a dad is, you're responsible for this human being. And my goal as a parent is to instill principles and morals into her that bring her to be a good person. And that set her up for success. With that being said, being a parent, and this is one thing that, now that I'm a parent, is something that's always on my mind, is it's important as a parent to not deprive your child of hardship. Being a millennial, a lot of millennials don't understand hardship a little bit, because, we have a very easy, had and do have, all of these other generations, an easier way of life compared to, let's say, my grandparents, who on my dad's side were immigrants, worked their asses off just to survive. And in this day and age, even poor people in the U.S. still live a good life compared to the rest of the world. So one of the things I feel like has happened is like a generational curse that's hard to understand for Americans in particular, because Americans are many generations removed from the hard way of life that immigrants face. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times you have generations that endure hardships growing up that define hardworking people that also don't take things for granted, which is why you have a lot of immigrants who come to the U.S. who come from nothing, who seize the opportunity and bust their ass. The immigrant mentality is a real thing. And Americans used to have it. And, a large part in the U.S., Americans still had it through the 1900s, especially because things weren't necessarily easy. So you still had to bust your ass. But it's just interesting because, especially as time wore on with technology and we became this global power, and money became abundant and we became so rich, the family structure, especially for Americans, became kind of like this lazy parenting where it's easier to give your kid everything so that they don't have to struggle. But that's a flaw, because then they have no character. They don't build any character till later in life when they experience hardship. When as parents, we should not be afraid of the struggle. We should encourage them to struggle. We should encourage hardship. so that later on in life, when they experience hardship, they know how to handle it. It's something that they're familiar with. It should be nothing that we should ever shy away from. And I kind of know this myself because it's something, growing up, especially till I was in middle school, that, I got everything I wanted. I never had to think twice. My parents gave me everything I wanted. My parents made good money. And then the thing that changed for me, and I was perceptive to it at a young age, was my parents were involved in real estate, in the mortgage industry. So in 2008, when the recession happened, they both lost their jobs. So my parents went from making a lot of money to basically poor. And experiencing that myself, it made me realize, we were spoiled. I was spoiled. And there's more to life than just getting everything you want. It's more. And that's in my life when I started experiencing stuff with sports and stuff and wanting to get better because I wanted to work for it versus, I don't like it because I'm not good. And I think that's something that, as parents, we're responsible for facilitating, and helping, inspire our kids, helping them get exposed to many different things, to find what they are passionate about and that they like. I mentioned in the podcast with my friend Jesse that, I like to sit with my daughter, and she's really young, but I still like to really expose her to all kinds of music, everything, just so that she has that as something that she can, has like a catalog of things that she can find that she likes as she gets older, and I think that's important as being a dad or as a parent. We need to be responsible stewards of our children and help set them up not to be a loser or a sore loser, and not to shy away from hardship. It's just life. Nature is hard. Life is hard. Look at nature. Nature is a hard teacher. Kill or be killed. And ultimately, that's something that you can never run from. I don't care what you think. It's just the way it is. I know, especially with the luxuries that we live in, we get out of touch with that. But at the end of the day, we want to be good people, right? We want to love others and treat people good, treat people with respect. But at the end of the day, also, is life is hard. It's unfair. But there's nothing you can do about it except prepare for the fight. The fight for survival, the fight to not quit, the fight to succeed. And that's what's important. So being a dad is just really put me into a perspective of thinking about things like that. It's not always cutthroat or anything. Of course, I want to love my daughter and, pour into her. And I look forward to being someone that she can confide in, she can trust in, that, that when things go wrong, she can come to me, that when she finds a sport she loves or a hobby she loves, that I can help her succeed in that. If she wants to play a certain sport, I'll gladly be the one to work with her for hours and hours and hours to be the best she can be. I look forward to that. I love that. I love the idea of being able to do that because I want to help her succeed, and I want her to understand hard work. I want to be able to be the one that she can trust to push her that way. I look forward to that. I love that concept. And it's something that, being a dad now is like my mind is opened up to. So it's awesome, in a different way. It's something that's hard to describe to people that don't have kids, but it's not something that you should shy away from or understanding. You never know when your time comes, and something to embrace, look forward to, don't be scared of it. You have to take ownership and responsibility and embrace it. So yeah, the next topic that we have is we will go with family dynamics, which is an interesting topic because kind of like what this all kind of intertwines together, which is interesting and cool. Family dynamics, I feel like, is a really big factor in everybody's life. Which brings an interesting topic of, are people inherently evil? I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, but I like to think to myself that people aren't evil, but more or less are the products of their family dynamic and other environmental circumstances. Meaning, what you grow up with, if you may not realize it, makes a big impact on who you are. And that's why it's important to look within yourself as a person to understand who you are and why you are the way you are, so that it's not something that is your identity, especially if it's something negative. And it's something that, ultimately will carry over to your family. So family dynamics plays a big role overall in who you are and your future. Because let's say you have an abusive mom. Whether you think so or not, it's going to have an impact on you in different ways. If you're a girl, you may have bad self-image. Depending on how your mom is, maybe she's abusive to your dad and you in general, verbally, not really physically. Subconsciously, you might think it's all right to be abusive to your future husband. And you may not realize it. So it's an interesting thing because family dynamics kind of set up, your perception of what family should look like. So ultimately you kind of have to realize, is this normal? In my example, my dad being alcoholic addict, for a long time it's nothing that I really picked up on because I'm young and naive and I didn't really, besides a couple of times and certain things, but over time you kind of pick up on things. And then you realize, actually this isn't normal. Which is why for me, I made a personal choice, not to drink. So I had to be honest with myself. I had to look at the family dynamic. I had to look at what was going on at home to decide, this is something that was going on for me growing up. This is not something that I want for myself or for my future. I'm lucky to have my life turn out the way it did. My dad got sober and everything like that. But a lot of times we kind of look past those things. We don't, take an overview of what's going on in our household, the way that we grew up, And it's interesting because sometimes we fail to forget some of those things, The mind is crazy. You experience traumatic things and your mind will protect you from those things. So it's almost like you don't want to go there. Your mind doesn't want to let you go there. But honestly, that could be the key to unlocking something that's been holding you down, that's been shackling you for a long time, from realizing that this isn't normal, this isn't how I should be. And it takes time for those things, I think that on a personal level, therapy is great, especially if you're trying to get to the root of yourself, figuring out where you're keeping yourself back or some things you may not realize about yourself. But family dynamics is important because The environment you're setting for your children is ultimately setting up for their future, because whether they realize it or not, subconsciously it's what they find that's normal or not. If mommy and daddy are always fighting, when your children grow up, they're going to think that that's normal, and that's not. So it's important to understand that family dynamics plays a big role in our life, in our future's life, our kids' life, and so on and so forth. So it is a very important thing to understand, and this is another topic that we can get really deep into, as well as my personal account of being a dad and how I feel about it and stuff that I feel about that. But generally, it's just about, finding out what kind of environment you want to set for yourself. What was it like for you as a kid? And what would you change about your home life when you were a kid? That's important for you to realize. What were your parents like? What did you not like that they did? What bothered you? Maybe you don't even think about that. You never realized it. What is something that, you would change? And I think that's important to take note of, because that ultimately has a factor in your life now, whether you believe it or not, or if you've noticed it or not. So it's just a interesting thing, something that people don't realize or think about. A lot of times, people have this idea, well, this is just the way I am. No, it's not. That's a slippery slope to go down, because it's like saying that this is me and I'm never going to change. And that's unhealthy, because we all can change. We can all improve. We can all be better. We can all change for the better, whether we want to accept it or not. So it's just something to think about, to be aware about. Think about it. Think about, for you, what was your home life like? What would you change? When you think back, what do you notice? What sticks out to you? If you don't remember, and you just remember having a shitty upbringing, maybe that's something that, is traumatic on your life, that your mind is shielding you from, keeping you safe from the trauma that you had. And this last topic is basically the same thing that we were talking about. People's journeys, everybody is on a journey. It looks different for everybody. It's like fitness, everybody's on a journey. The thing is, it looks different for everybody. For some people, it's easier than others. For some people, it's harder. Some people are dealt a shitty hand of cards. It's not an excuse, though. I think being dealt a shittier hand of cards makes you a tougher son of a bitch. You have a lot more mental fortitude you have to work with. You have a lot more. The odds are stacked against you. And when you're under pressure, it makes diamonds. So, your journey looks different, because we have different environments we're born into, different families, different backgrounds. And, it's important to understand that we're all on this journey together. And, we should always encourage each other. We should always be compassionate to each other. We should never look down on other people. Never judge other people. You never know what's going on. I think that some people sometimes need a good ass kicking, just because that's reality. Everybody needs a good ass kicking sometimes. Even myself. It's a good reminder that you're not shit. Like, okay. I was getting a little big-headed, but now I realize I was just blowing smoke up my ass. That kind of reminder that, like, okay, this is reality. So, everybody's journey looks different, but, we're all pressing for the same thing, for a better life, for a better self, to improve ourselves, better relationships, wealth, health. What's the point of life if you're not healthy? You get to retirement, or anything like that. For what? When you're unhealthy, And I think that when you take care of your mind, body, and soul, spiritually, physically, your mind, it pays off. You have a better life. You're more content. You're not limited by your capability or your inability to do things, or because you can really do anything if you believe it. Your journey will improve. Your journey will look better. Your future looks better. Instead of your journey being through the trenches and through the desert, your journey is, you started in the desert, but you ended up somewhere where you can make something happen, So it's important, to understand that we all start from the bottom. We all start from somewhere. It may look different for everybody. Some people have advantages or not. But you know what? Complaining about it or looking at other people and comparing yourself to other people isn't going to help you. You just got to remind yourself that you have to bust your ass for what's yours. You got to want better for yourself and better for those around you. And you push others and you push yourself. As you propel yourself to success or through your journey to become better, you take others with you. That's important, because your journey, in essence, is everybody else's journey, whether you think so or not, We're all humans. We're all experiencing emotions. We're all going through things, I'm never going to feel sorry for somebody because you're never going to get pity from me, because life sucks if you let it suck. Because life sucks for everybody. But your perception and how you want to perceive it and how you want to look at it dictates how it's going to go. So if I'm sitting here like, my life sucks, then it will. But if you say, you know what? I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to get better. I demand better from life. It'll come. It'll come eventually. It's just about going through that journey and just keep moving forward. Taking people around you, leaning on your friends, balancing out all the highs and lows and figuring out what works, what doesn't, and just keep pressing forward. And that's it for episode 8. Ocho. Big 8. If you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe, like, drop a comment. Give me some topics to talk about. Send me some videos. You can hit me up on any social media. I also have my email in the description below. You can send it to me. If you're listening on any other streaming platform, on iTunes or Spotify or any other platform, go ahead and follow the podcast. Give me a rating. Drop me a review. Go ahead and go to the YouTube and check me out there. And you can also give me some content to talk about. Like I said, get my email, send me some articles, send me some videos. I'm open for anything. This is a community podcast where we can all contribute. I want to know what's on y'all's mind. And that's it. Excited for some of the guests we got coming up. And thanks for hanging out, guys. Thank you for all the support. And we're just going to keep rambling on and on and on and on and on.